for supporting new writing. This is a brand new British play. It started life earlier this year on stage at Birmingham Rep, came to the Park Theatre in London, has toured and toured all over. And it now has its West End premiere here at the Criterion Theatre, where it has a very limited season until the 9th of September. This is the first of 2 post-show Q&As, and the second will be on the 4th of September with the full cast, so come back for that. Meanwhile, tonight we have the pleasure of talking to The Way Old Friends Do's, I can't say that right, the writer.
It's very complicated. I did have one friend when I told him the title who thought it was about whales. He thought I said The Whale Friends Do. Like, okay, I'm going to have to enunciate more in the future.
I feel very bad that he doesn't have a microphone over there.
Hello.
Hello.
We can share.
Okay. The Way Old Friends Do is written by and features on stage Mr. Ian Hallard, who is also a real-life ABBA superfan. And it is directed by Mr. Mark Gatiss, who is a real-life all-rounder.
I'm a superfan.
And
sort of.
I hope I'm not giving the game away, but you are also Ian's husband. Is that okay with him? So they know each other pretty well. Okay, so...
depends how tonight goes, I think.
You are married for the moment. So, fantastic. So, and I'm really pleased because I'm dropping everything. And this is the second time that I've done a Q&A for this show. We had a Q&A at the Park Theatre. So it's really fun to revisit and talk to you guys again. Ian, you explained at that time that, and also in your interview feature, please do get a souvenir program.
I don't have one yet.
You don't? It's very glossy. That The Way Old Friends Do is not autobiographical, but it is uniquely personal. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, the character that I wrote for myself, I decided I didn't want to be challenged dramatically, artistically, or acting-wise. So I thought, well, I'll make it quite an easy stretch. It'll be a queer, middle-aged brummie. So that's the sort of, so the background is very much me. And actually, there are parts of the thing which are sort of autobiographical. There was the moment when, the scene where I'm sobbing at the laptop, when Frida and Agnetha reunited for the party in 2016. And I was at home, Mark was out walking the dog. Do you want to finish the story?
Yes, I came back and I heard sobbing from the door, and I presumed someone had died. And I couldn't get a word out of him. He was absolutely speechless. And literally, like in the show, he pointed dumbly at the laptop. And I appeared at this blurry footage of Agnetha and Frida.
I actually think I recovered the power of speech more quickly in the play. I don't think it would sustain for 10 minutes of incoherence.
Sort of say, for fuck's sake, I thought someone had died. But in fact, it was better news than that.
So you kept that in, but you alluded to the fact that you kind of reverse engineered. This was the first play that you started writing. You have written other plays since.
Yes.
You started writing it in 2019.
Yes.
Something happened in 2020, maybe we all remember. But you wanted to reverse engineer because you imagined what would your dream role be. Is that right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, basically I wanted to play Agnetha, so this is the most straightforward way of doing it. And obviously I'm not actually playing her, that would be a bit weird. Yeah, so that was one of the motivations to do it. It was a few things coming together at once. I mean, it was obviously writing about something that's your passion, you feel, okay, hopefully my sort of heart and commitment to it will shine through. And then, obviously, once I'd had the idea of the drag tribute band, I thought, well, that sounds like it probably has to be a comedy rather than this searing psychological tragedy. And I'll see if I can write funny lines. And really didn't think I could, because I can never remember a joke to save my life. But in a weird way, I kind of find once I had the characters, they sort of started to say funny things to each other, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. Yes, it was a few things coming together, and then once I wanted to write about middle-aged LGBT men, and focusing on their friendship rather than the romantic angle, and obviously the title and having the trajectory of a friendship that obviously goes through highs and lows, gave me a sort of structure for the play. So it was all very easy, really. I can't take much credit for it. It was all just there.
Very easy. Mark, Ian Ian is a self-confessed ABBA superfan, but let me hear from you as his husband. What does that mean? Just how big a fan is he, and how does that impact your life?
Negatively.
Oh, it's like a counselling session.
Correct. Well, I do love them too, and I've got that. It's a bit like me in Doctor Who. You see, my brother used to torment me by saying, because I remember when the Cybermen were in the sewers, and he used to allude to these stories I was too young to see. I do that with Ian occasionally because I remember Eurovision '74 and things like that. And it's I've got form.
I wasn't born there.
Still, I was there, so that was all right. No, I've always loved them, but it's not the same degree, and it's a very positive part of our lives. It's a very, very large part of our lives, a very constant, looming presence. We watched the Geurt van de Graaf, a documentary last night on our day off. So that gives you an idea. It's Geurt van de Graaf, I've discovered.
I do put my AirPods in quite a lot. I mean, I don't.
Yes. You do play Under Attack, your favourite song, a lot.
We'll have to look at my Spotify list for the end of the year. It's been less. I mean, it's definitely been super.
Fantastic. Okay, so Ian started writing this in summer 2019. Did he tell you that he was working on a play?
No, I thought he was having an affair.
I mean, I was.
Very suspiciously, and then we were going to go on holiday with Ian's mum and dad and his brother and our nieces to the Isle of Wight, and then Ian got a job, got a play, so he stayed put and I went to the island, and while I was there I got this email saying I've been writing, and here it is, what do you think? So I deleted it, found it in my junk a couple of years later, and I thought it was great, and it was, Ian was very tentative about it, but I thought it was delightful. It had a whole other bit, which was Peter and Edward at school, and that was my first note, was you absolutely don't need this. It's backstory, and you can just start with the meeting again.
And nobody needs to see 40-something men dressed up as 13-year-old schoolboys. Well, certain people probably do.
There's probably a show down the road like that.
I found that first draft the other day, and I was amazed. Actually, there was so much backstory with that. I'm amazed you didn't tell me it was rubbish from the start, though, because there was so much backstory. The interval landed at the end of the pub garden scene where they'd had the first idea. That's how much backstory there was. So, there was no Mrs. Campbell in that.
No, there wasn't.
She wasn't.
I know, amazing, isn't it?
So she's still going to stay. I'm not getting rid of her.
But it was, I thought it was just a lovely, it's very, very funny, very touching, and very true, and that's the lovely thing about it. It's like, in the vein of those sort of plucky amateur comedies like Calendar Girls and things like that, but also because it's about something very close to Ian's heart, it rings true. And I think I always think that about anything which is about someone else's enthusiasm. You don't actually need to know about it to know that they know. And it sort of shines out like that.
Now, this is the first time, obviously, since this is Ian's first play, that you have directed something, but have the two of you worked together before?
I directed Ian on TV, and also Ian's been my sort of unofficial script editor for years, really, forever, since we met. So we, he's been very close to me writing all sorts of stuff, and I presume.
So I've learned a lot. I mean, to be serious with once, I mean, obviously, I don't think I'd be able to have written a play.
You couldn't spell. No, but so it's been a very happy collaboration for all of us, really. It's been.
We acted together as well.
Yeah.
On stage. Yeah. I think someone told us this because we did The Boys in the Band, 7 years ago at Park, and then transferred it. And I think at the time, I don't know whether we still are, but we were the first gay married couple to appear on stage together.
Yeah.
I don't imagine
Michael Dennison and Dulcie Gray.
With all those musicals over the years, I don't imagine we were the first gay couple to appear. But maybe none of them had officially tied the knot.
And Ian, after all those years as Mark's unofficial script editor, how did you feel having him reading one of your scripts?
Well, it was a bit nerve-wracking, but I knew I could trust his judgment, and he would be completely honest, and that he could, and I would have totally taken it if he'd have read it and gone, I love you dearly, but this is terrible, delete it, and never show it to another human being. If that would happen, then I'd have been, yeah, okay, I gave it a go. And then when he didn't, that was lovely, and then when other producers, Sean Foley from the Birmingham Rep, who was the first person to kind of stick his neck out and say, I want to put this on, that was another huge boost of confidence. And then James Seabright, who's producing the show here, did the same. So no, it was, and then we had a long discussion about whether it was right that Mark should direct it or not, and it wasn't a foregone conclusion at all. We talked about it a lot with Sean and James first, didn't we? And but obviously it's kind of my baby, and I knew I could trust it in his hands.
And here you are. Yay! Well, and also to bring it here into the Criterion, where Mark had another play with friend in the title, not earlier this year.
Yes, I will only do plays with friend in the title, and only at the Criterion. That's my rider. It's been an extraordinary year, it really has. It's bizarre. Actually, when we were taking the show last week, just to be back here so quickly, it's very odd, yeah, it's delightful.
So that play, Stephen Moffat's The Unfriend, which Mark also directed, is transferring to Wyndham's in December. So they are cornering the West End.
And wait, there's more.
Oh.
Because it's next door to the Motive and the Q transfer. Next door! If this is the 1950s, it would have my name in big red lights.
And for those who don't know, Mark is playing John Gielgud in that play, which has been a huge hit at the National. And do we have the shaved head as a...
Yes. The rest of it's going for them. I have a temporary stay of execution.
Wonderful. Okay, so hands in the audience. Here in the front row, this first one.
So, Eurovision is obviously the thing with ABBA. Everyone knows ABBA from Eurovision, if not before that. But this year, Eurovision was a little bit controversial because Sweden won, and of course it's the 50th anniversary. Do you think it was rigged?
That was not what I was expecting.
I feel very strongly about it.
Eurovision conspiracy theorists. I don't personally think it was rigged. No, I think that would be quite complicated to rig it. I suspect that maybe some of the professional jurors, because Loreen won with the jury votes, didn't she? But not the public vote. So I suspect maybe. I mean, she's a great performer. It was a good song. I suspect maybe the fact that she was only the second person to win it twice and the first female performer to kind of do it twice. Maybe people may be better disposed to the song than they might have been otherwise. But I don't think it's a reason. Yeah. They agree. They're the conspiracy theorists. But no, I don't. And I don't. And if they're doing it in the hope that they think they're going to get a reunion, then I think that's very unlikely. Björn might turn up, but not the rest of them.
So, excellent curveball question.
I think it's a lot. We were here all night. I thought it was a very deserving winner. I thought it was a wonderful song. Well, I also love Cha Cha Cha. But I think it deserved to win. I think it was great.
Fabulous. Okay, is this a question about Eurovision? Okay, let's have some questions about the play. No offense. Yes.
Were there any rights issues over use of the music? Did you need to get permission from the group? And also on the tangent, what do you really think of the new album?
Oh, no, that's so controversial. Tell us about how ABBA has been involved, if at all.
Yes, in order to sing the way our friends do and to lip sync to Dancing Queen at the end, excuse me, we've had to we've applied to ABBA and their record company, and they've been very accommodating and very helpful, and have supported us and allowed us to do it, and charged us whatever, I don't know how much, but it presumably was not exorbitant or prohibitive, otherwise this wouldn't be happening. So yes, so you absolutely do, and I'm very thrilled about the fact that amateur rights applications are coming in for next year, so there are going to be some amateur productions across the country. So yes, anyone putting the show on will have to apply for the same permissions. We're lucky the little snippets, because those are transitional scene change music. You don't have to get specific rights for that. That's covered by the general venue license. But yes, those two songs we do have to, which I was really thankful when I wrote it, I thought, okay, it's a play, it's not a musical, and obviously they've got a lot of other products out there. They've got Mamma Mia and Voyage and everything. I thought it wouldn't have surprised me. They could very easily just said, no, sorry, we don't want any other unofficial shows out there. And so I deliberately kept the actual amount of music to a minimum, which is a shame. Obviously, it would be great to see more of them perform, but I have, have to be realistic about these things. But I thought if I could only get one, then it would be the Whale Friends do at the end, because that's kind of the dramatic climax of the show. So I'm very, very glad that we're able to do that. And I love Voyage. Yeah, I think. I mean, God. I've said the only 5 or 6 years ago, the hardcore ABBA fans, the most we hoped for was that maybe the four of them would agree to be photographed together, because they were even so adamant that they were so determined to discourage any rumours of a reunion. They wouldn't even do that. They wouldn't be in the same place at the same time to have a photo, so maybe they'll do that. So to go from that to an actual new album, a live show, them appearing together is astonishing. I love it.
Fantastic. And you did get lots of people in the audience up on their feet for Dancing Queen at the end, so that's a nice boogie, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like a bit of achievement. If you stick Dancing Queen at the end of the show, people will forget whatever's happened for the next previous 2 hours. That was great, wasn't it? Like, easy standing ovation. There you go.
Very good. Okay, other hands?
Up there?
Oh, right at the top. Yes.
I just wanted to ask about the voiceovers, because the voiceovers were pretty great. I just wondered how you went about getting them.
And I do just want to add, very movingly, when we did our post-show Q&A at the Park Theatre, we did that on the night that Paul O'Grady's death was announced. So it was incredibly poignant and wonderful to hear him again in the show. Mark, talk about that. And Miriam Margulies, who's moving even when we can't see her.
Well, yes, it was just we just asked Paul, and he did it for nothing. He just did it to help. He was such a kind man, and I knew him slightly over the years. I met him several times. I did his show several times, and I had a great time once. I took our old dog on once, and then we talked about Tenko, and he said, I'm having a reunion. God, you must come back. So he had me back for this. He had the cast of Tenko and me. just to be kind. It was amazing. And then, so he just said he'd do it, and that was last November. Was the last time I saw him, and he was great. We just had a hysterical hour or so in the little recording studio just up the road. And he said, I've got to confess something. I hate ABBA. I hate. And then we just saw the news. It was just unbelievable, really. But we decided the nice thing to do would be to keep it, and it gets an extraordinary response at the beginning of the show. But it's not a sort of downer. I think people are just feel so warmly towards him. So that's been amazing. And then Miriam, we asked, and Jez Bond at Park, who was hugely helpful in getting the permission to sing The Whale Friends Do. She'll do anything for him. She rang me up and said, I'll do anything for Jez Bond. And then by complete irony, she turns out to be the person who says, doesn't want Peter to swear. And that wasn't written like that, It wasn't written with Miriam in mind. So yes, we had a really good laugh doing both of them.
And she doesn't like ABBA either, does she?
She doesn't. It's weird. What's wrong with these people?
Have either of them seen the show? Has Miriam seen it? Did Paul have a chance?
Paul didn't know, sadly, and Miriam's been she recorded her voiceover in Tuscany, where she mostly lives, so she still hasn't seen it.
No, I mean maybe she doesn't want to. She doesn't like ABBA.
She'd be rooting for Angelo in the Brotherhood of Manbits, I don't know.
Okay, other hands. Here on the aisle. Here on the aisle.
Did the other actors have agency in adding their own lines, or was it mainly to script?
No way.
Okay.
This is not a democracy.
I'm gonna let Mark answer that, but I also encourage you to come back on the 4th of September for the Q&A with the cast, so you can see if the stories match, right? Mark?
No, it's not. I mean, it's not that sort of show, really. I mean, there's always room for discussion, and and people's suggestions or a different sort of take on something. But it's very much a tightly scripted comedy, so it's not that kind of show. I mean, there are such things, but this isn't one of them, really. I can't think of any examples where anything radically changed. change?
No, I mean because it's a new piece, inevitably, the initial rehearsal period back in January, some lines, or in fact one whole scene went. Even at that stage, we just agreed we don't need it.
Yeah.
And there were occasional times where you just kind of go, well, I'm not sure quite how to end this scene or whatever. So if anyone had a brilliant suggestion, then I'd very happily take it forward. Yeah. But generally, all I did is if I didn't know how to end a scene, I'd just give the brilliant Sara Crowe a non sequitur, and there we go. Mr. Campbell can just say something daft at the end of a scene.
We're fond of saying that Sarah's character is rather like Phoebe in Friends, because she's so stupid at times she's scarcely sentient, and then at other times she's quite canny in a strange Scottish way. It's not very consistent in her.
Shut up.
But Ian, as we said, in terms of the timeline for this piece, you did write the first draft in summer 2019. So we had a pandemic. The pandemic is reflected in the play. Tell us how different that version was and how living through the pandemic affected the end piece.
It was exactly the same. I foresaw all of COVID. That entire scene was written before the pandemic. Well, it was weird because that final scene, I mean, when I started writing the play, they had already announced that they had recorded the two new songs, and we did know the titles for them as well. So that was always, the final line of the play was always, I still have faith in you. Weirdly, I wrote it never having heard the song, so I didn't know what it sounded like. And that final scene was stranded at some point in the future, because it actually took place post-COVID, September 2021. So that final scene was just stranded at some point in the future. So when post-COVID, I was able to then go back and obviously add all the other references, which is sort of helpful in getting across the passage of time. But it was strange when I heard the song myself, sitting there in front of my laptop in that September, I was thinking, this is one of the last scene in my play, isn't it?
The odd thing though is, and that made me laugh when I was sitting there as well, and I was racing to get back. It was there was a tube strike or something. It was like, of all the nights, I've got to get back to be there and hold Ian's hand. And then, of course, what we actually watched was a terrible TV show from Stockholm. And I thought, the idea that Peter would actually be listening to it on the radio in his flat, rather than watching this global transmission. But what I really like is that it's odd that those little references to "Are we hugging?" and everything gets an almost nostalgic reaction. Isn't that strange? Because it's not that long ago, but it feels like another lifetime. And I'm quite pleased with how they're just quite small references. There's nothing. I don't think anyone wants to see anything about the pandemic really, but it just reminds you as a sort of a date stamp, doesn't it, where we were.
Can I just pick up on something? You said that to hear the song, you wanted to be there to hold Ian's hand. Is that how significant ABBA developments are?
Oh my God, yeah.
And you want to share them with him?
And then when the album came out November 5th that year, I was in Nottingham doing Christmas Carol, and we had Ian. We Skyped, didn't we, or whatever it is there, Zoomed it, and Ian played me each song. We talked about it. We had to listen to the album together. Yeah, that was very interesting. It was. I loved it. It was just strange.
You guys are very adorable. Okay. Other hands. I think we've got a couple more minutes, a few more time. Yes, in the second row there.
Can I just ask, did any other plays, like, for example, Beautiful Thing, with the use of, like, mums and papas and, like, queer plays, did anything like that inspire you apart from ABBA?
So did everyone hear the question? Yeah. Okay.
I haven't actually seen Beautiful Thing for a long time, and I loved it, and I remember seeing it at the cinema. So, sorry?
It's back this year.
Yes.
That's
That's right, yeah. I've seen Jonathan Hart. Jonathan Hart has been kind of tweeting about it, yeah. So I'd love to see it again. So I suppose not directly. It's not as if I'd watched it recently and thought, oh, I'll do my own version of that. But I don't know, it's funny, isn't it? Who can say exactly what influences and what kind of seeps in. But I think that the bunch of kind of plucky amateurs and stuff. I mean, my night with Reg and even the boys in the band. The specifics of that sort of gay experience and charting that. And what I really wanted to do as well was bit smug about the fact that there are no heterosexual male characters in it, apart from possibly the waiter who knows about what he what is. But the kind of the lead characters are all LGBT plus, and I've lost my train of thought now. With you talking about the waiter, you mentioned the waiter.
You mentioned the waiter.
No, I know. Carry on, it'll come back to me. Oh no, that was it. Someone kind of said also the fact that even that someone compared it at the last Q&A we did to kind of the boys of the band, which obviously would that set at a party where they're nervous every time the doorbell rings in case it's the police or it's a raid, even in a private party they could be raided. And actually, you've got even the kind of the apparently conservative older character. Nobody has a problem with with any of the characters' sexuality, even Nan, and the kind of it's lovely when the response went to the kind of coming out as well, phone call as well, which kind of is lovely to kind of feel like you've moved things on a bit without being complacent, because obviously I know not everyone's all right with it.
Exactly. Okay, there were other hands.
There's someone in the green there with the white scarf who had a hand up.
Green with white scarf.
Yes.
Shaddis. Is there an ABBA-related sequel to what your friends do?
Say
With
more
ABBA.
in
More
depth.
ABBA.
God, how much more in depth do you want?
He's going to publish the glossary as a sequel to the play text by Nick Clearing.
The glossary does exist.
The glossary does exist.
We Mark was walking the dog on Saturday morning during the initial rehearsal period. He came back and said, "What have you been doing learning your lines?" But now I've been writing the glossary. So actually, yeah. But then we were at Park Theatre, which is very intimate. People could literally see whether the glossary existed or not. Now, I think that maybe a spin-off or a sequel for Mrs. Campbell. I think she deserves more.
I'm going to tell Sara Crowe that you said that.
Oh, she knows.
Okay,
no, she knows.
right.
She's
Well,
right.
in September, that'll be a subplot to the
With
Q&A.
Steve, yes. With Steve and his tattoos.
Yes.
That's what we want to see.
Okay, in the middle here.
Did you already know the actors that you wanted to use for the characters, or waited for you go on auditions?
Yes, how did you decide on the casting? Did you have any of these actors
It was
in mind?
written for Sarah, really, and for you. Otherwise, no, it was auditions. Yeah.
Donna was the first.
And Donna did the first read through.
Sally.
When was that?
That was September 2019. It was just after I'd written it.
Yeah.
August maybe. Yeah. And obviously, as I say, Mrs. Campbell wasn't in the original draft. I was trying to keep the cast really as small as possible. So there was only 5 characters originally, and Sally was Benny from the beginning. And one of your notes was, "Oh, it's all just a little bit straightforward. They need a few more complications." So hence I was like, "Okay, well,
Here's one.
Mrs. Campbell can kind of, and then she can get ill, and then someone has to replace her." And actually, it's one of the. I mean, it didn't get a huge laugh on tour, but certainly in the West End, the doppelgangers line. I mean, everyone really enjoys that. So it's quite lucky to have that now.
More sophisticated here.
I don't know what doppelgangers are and so on. I'm joking. So yeah, but no. Rose, Andrew, Anton, I knew a little from mutual friends, but I'd never really seen a lot of him kind of act or ever. So no, everyone else just kind of for.
And also we must say Tarrier, who's Sarah's understudy, had to go on in Birmingham, and there she is,
Yes.
and absolutely stormed it. And it was a wonderful. I thought it was not just testament to her, but actually to how well Mrs. Campbell's written, that you can play it in a completely different way, and people still completely loved her. And I was very chuffed and hugely relieved when that happened.
I mean, because, and again, to be fair to Tarrier, she's a lot younger than the part as written, so kind of to actually be able to carry that off was no mean feat.
Yay. Okay, I think one final question. Who's going to be Oh, yeah, very keen, very keen. Is it a good question?
Yeah.
Confident, very confident.
I love that you've written it down, right? Are you going to read it too?
Firstly, I would like to say congratulations to you all for transferring this show to the West End, and my fans loved it very much. And my question is actually years this time, do you feel anything different or similarity compared to the tour before? Yeah, just that.
So any changes?
So any
between
changes
here and
since the tour?
Yeah, change a few lines, a few bits and pieces.
Yes.
There were a few cuts that we made from the original that I got back in. The stuff about like being an unforgiving fabric and stuff you'd cut originally. I think Sarah can make that work. We can get a new life.
It's more. I mean, we just didn't have very long to get it back up and running. I mean, it finished in York 2 months ago, so we basically had a week. I spent 2 days with Anton and Ian, and then everybody else joined last Monday, and then we did the one preview on Thursday and press night Friday, and now here we are on Monday. So it was very tight. It was a very, very intense week that was. But it's great, and this is such a brilliant theatre for comedy. The acoustics, as you can tell,
are marvellous.
they really are. It's great, and it's just such a welcoming environment, I think. So it's this little, you know, it's only a short spell, but it's a wonderful cherry on the cake, really, to come to transfer like this.
I was also going to say one final Criterion connection, which I saw on Twitter. So not only has Mark had a show here earlier this year, but this is Ian's return to this stage after 25 years. You had your drama school showcase here. Wow. So that is it. So we do have to wind up now. I just wanted to come full circle and say, do please get the program and the play text and the tote bag. It's going to be very, very nice. But Ian, you write in the program that you have immense gratitude to ABBA for enriching your life, which I think is just wonderful. And as you say in the play, and I imagine is true, it sounds like, that it has gotten you through so much in your life, highs and lows. And now, thanks to ABBA, you have this wonderful West End premiere, and it's just fantastic. So congratulations to you both. I hope that there will be future collaborations. Any ideas?
Brotherhood of Man.
Okay, so audience, you've been wonderful. Please do keep spreading the word about the show. Come back and see us on the 4th to hear from the cast and Ian again. And meanwhile, please join me in thanking Mark and Ian and everyone at Criterion.